The Renaissance was an amazing time period, a rebirth of culture and learning that took place in Europe from the 14th to the 16th century. And in this video, we're going to look at some of its most important characteristics. Okay, first off, what was the Renaissance? The word Renaissance means rebirth in French, and it was a rebirth of sorts for the ancient knowledge of the Greeks and Romans. For 1,000 years, most Europeans had been focused on religion. But during the Renaissance, people started to think more about the world around them and began to study science, philosophy, and the arts. Where did it happen? It began around 1300 AD in the Italian city of Florence and then spread to the rest of Europe. It peaked during the 15th and 16th centuries and ended around the year 1600. What are its core ideas? Well, one was humanism, which emphasized the potential of humans and the importance of education and classical learning. Another was secularism, meaning that while religion was still very important, the focus was not solely on the afterlife, but also on life here on earth. There was also a growing sense of individualism, an emphasis on the unique abilities and talents of the individual. And finally, there was a renewed interest in ancient Greek and Roman texts, art and architecture. How did this affect art? During the Renaissance, there were breakthroughs in perspective, human anatomy and realism. Artists used new techniques like fresco and oil painting, as well as chiaroscuro, which is the use of light and dark to create a three-dimensional effect. Some of the most famous Renaissance artists include Leonardo da Vinci, who painted the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, as well as Michelangelo, who sculpted David and painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Other famous artists include Raphael, Donatello and Botticelli. What about literature and philosophy? Well, during the Renaissance, people began writing in the vernacular. That is the local languages, instead of just Latin. Some of the most famous writers include Dante Alighieri, who wrote the Divine Comedy, Petrarch, who is considered the father of humanism, Machiavelli, who wrote The Prince, and Erasmus, who was a leader of Christian humanism. And then there's William Shakespeare, arguably the greatest writer in the English language and a key figure in the English Renaissance. Then there's science. The Renaissance saw the rise of scientific thinking and observation as a way of understanding the natural world. Important figures include Copernicus, who proposed the heliocentric theory that the Earth revolves around the Sun, Galileo, who made important discoveries in astronomy and physics, Vesalius, who made detailed studies of human anatomy, and Leonardo da Vinci, who also studied anatomy and invented all sorts of things like a flying machine and a submarine. These scientists laid the foundation for the scientific revolution that would take place in the 17th century. Oh, and not to forget the printing press, invented by Johannes Gutenberg around 1440. It made books cheaper and more available, which helped to spread Renaissance ideas rapidly across Europe. Then we have architecture. Renaissance architects were inspired by ancient Greek and Roman architecture, and they used columns, domes, symmetry, and proportion in their designs. This atmosphere helped to pave the way for the Protestant Reformation, which began in 1517, when Martin Luther posted his 95 Theses. So religion and the Reformation are closely connected to the Renaissance, but they're also a topic for another video. In the end, the Renaissance was a time of great change and intellectual growth that laid the foundation for modern Western thought. It inspired the Enlightenment, the scientific revolution, and modern education, and changed the way people view art, science, religion, and the self. Okay, click here to keep reviewing for Unit 4, and I'll see you in the next video.